welcome back to our yearly roundup of all the weird news that has happened in 2021. If you're new around here and you've missed the past few episodes which featured all the weird news from the first half of 2021, then make sure you head back and watch those after this one, because they're chock full of strangeness, which I think you might just be interested in learning about. I'm back today with 2 more weird tales from the year just past. And as a reminder, this won't be your usual news roundup. This is strictly the stuff that makes you go, what? As quite frankly, politics, the global panny-d and the general destruction of the planet are not the kind of energy we want to be knowingly dragging into the new year. Now that's not to say that these stories don't dally with the dark side, because they most definitely do. But there's also some light-hearted strangeness too. But don't worry, if anything is going to be hideously awful, then I'll give you a heads up first. So with the disclaimer out of the way, let's jump into September. But before we do that, if you are new here, then hi, my name's Nikki and I make podcasts and videos about all sorts of weird stuff. So if you're into that, which I have a sneaking suspicion you might be because the algorithm has brought you here, then please hit subscribe so we can hang out together again. And if you're not new here, then welcome back, old fiend. Nice to see you again. Now first up today, we have a story that's right out of a sitcom script. But this actually happened. As with all good stories, this one starts off with a night of drinking. A group of friends were hanging out in their hometown of İnegöl in Turkey when things went a little bit off the rails. One of the men, 50-year-old Beyhan Mutlu, decided to do an Irish goodbye from his mates, and when his friends realised they couldn't find him, they panicked. Their drinking spot was right next to a huge forest, and in his inebriated state, Beyhan had decided to go for a walk in the woods, in the pitch black. By the time the group had noticed his absence, it was about 2 a.m, and after a little while of looking for themselves, they couldn't find Beyhan and started to think something may have happened to him. When his friend tried to call him, the phone number they used didn't work. Unbeknownst to the group, Beyhan had just changed his phone and had a new number, so the calls weren't connected. By this time, Beyhan's wife had been contacted, and she too was quite worried about his whereabouts, and everyone decided that this may be quite serious. The gendarmerie were called at around 5 a.m, and they went off to look for Beyhan in the woods. When they arrived, people who were awake and around in the village also joined with the gendarme to help with the search. A short while after they had entered the woods, they started shouting for Beyhan to see if they could locate him. They were then surprised when a voice came from the back of the search party, answering the call. It turns out Beyhan had seen the commotion unfolding in the woods, thought there had been an accident, and joined the group to help search, not realising he was the one they were looking for. It turns out Beyhan, who had been working at a construction site near to the woods, had been given accommodation by his employer, which, you guessed it, happened to be in the woods. So when he went wandering off into the forest, he was actually just going back to his digs. When he saw the lights and the gendarme outside, he thought he would follow them to help, but in the dark, no one really realised he was there. So what could have ended up being really awful turned out to be a good, funny story he can tell the next time he goes out drinking. Or maybe he should stick to lemonade next time. Okay, so our next story is a sentence that I never thought would ever come out of my mouth, but here we are. Shakira was attacked by 2 wild boars in the centre of Barcelona, which I hear is the most painful place to be attacked. The singer went live on Instagram to report the incident to her followers and revealed what happened. She had been walking in a park with her 8-year-old son when out of nowhere, 2 wild boar ran up to her. They then proceeded to steal her bag and tried to run away with it. Shakira wasn't going to take this piggy ambush lying down, so she chased the beasts away, retrieving her belongings in the process. Once back at home where she took to Instagram to share her story, she explained how she'd fought off the boars and managed to retrieve her now very muddy bag, which had her phone in it. On the Insta Live, she asked her son to back up her story and tell her viewers how brave she was, but he didn't really seem that fazed. Weirdly, this isn't the first time an animal has had a pop at Shakira. In 2012, she was almost mauled by a sea lion whilst on holiday in Cape Town in South Africa. The huge sea mammal, according to Shakira and her brother who was with her at the time, lunged to snatch her phone out of her hand after she was trying to take a picture of the animal. Shakira's brother, who she refers to as Super Tony, dived in front of her to rescue Shakira from the beast, and luckily this intervention scared it off, but the two did suffer cuts and bruises after they had to scramble quickly onto a rock to safety. I swear to you, I'm not making this up. The only thing I can think is that there is some major incriminating evidence on Shakira's phone that the animal kingdom wants. So with that out of the way, let's look at why these park piggies may have actually attacked Shakira. Really now, what is my life? Wild boar have been booming in numbers across Europe for a number of years now. What with commercialised farming of the animals for meat, them having a penchant for escaping, people releasing farmed animals into the wild, and an uptake in favourable conditions for the animals to eat and breed, it was only a matter of time before they began integrating themselves into towns and cities. Boars began moving out of the woods in search of better food sources, particularly when populations boomed, making it harder to find food. And in particular, pregnant females would then give birth to their piglets in the city, creating a new type of city boar which never even knew the wilderness it was meant to live in. Wild boar piglets are very, very cute, and so people would feed them. They'd then learn that people were easily intimidated for food, and the piggy problem grew out of control. Given that the boar were already approaching over 1 million in population pre-Panny D, the lockdowns further exacerbated the problem, as any attempts to get them under control were halted. The boars living in Barcelona are now responsible for a multitude of incidents and continue to cause havoc on a daily basis. Some of their favourite pig pranks are stealing phones, running through traffic, and causing accidents, chasing people, rooting up gardens, and pulling over rubbish bins. In other cities in Europe, citizens have been facing similar antics from the boars. They've stolen a laptop from someone in a nudist colony in Belgium, resorted to gang violence in a supermarket car park in Rome in Italy, stealing a lady's groceries, and have killed a few dogs. According to experts, the boar are actually relatively docile, and they're not really interested in attacking humans per se, but they will resort to violence if they feel threatened. The attacks on humans can be pretty bad, and depending on the size of the boar, potentially life-threatening. The boar have large and powerful jaws, and are very strong, fast and muscular. Not to mention that they are fiercely intelligent, so once they've worked out a way to get food, they will continue to use that tactic. And they also cause mayhem, just because they find it funny. Boars have also developed some excellent escape skills, and so any attempts to try and contain them to the areas they should be in, like the forest, have completely failed. The animals have been seen to jump as high as 6 feet to escape enclosures, and if that doesn't work, they can chew through concrete and dig under fences. Generally, pigs are just amazing creatures. I'm telling you, when the apocalypse comes, it's just going to be pigs, mushrooms and cockroaches left. Oh, and the Queen. Unfortunately for the freedom-loving boars, the only way people have found to get them under control is to euthanize them. Other attempts to relocate the boar have found them resorting to their town-trashing ways as soon as they've found their way back to the bright lights. And as the species is considered to be highly invasive, this might not necessarily be a bad thing. The boar also destroy habitats for other animals by rooting through forests. They can eat ground-dwelling birds and their eggs and destroy saplings, causing woodlands to become barren. If the numbers of the boar are under control, they're actually beneficial to their natural environment, as they are important in dispersing seeds from trees around a forest in their droppings. And in fact, wild boar populations have been reintroduced in some areas of Europe to help with creating diverse forest growth. In the UK, wild boar have been put back into several remote forests, but are closely kept an eye on to make sure the numbers of adults are kept under control. Given that the normal lifespan of a boar is around 20 years, It's a difficult balancing act of making sure a current population doesn't get out of control, and some scientists are seeing if there may be another way to control the population through the use of birth control injections for adult females. But this science isn't quite there yet to suggest this may work long term, and all the while the numbers are already out of control, euthanasia is the cheapest and most foolproof option. As for now, the pigs are winning the battle, but it still remains to be seen if they'll win the war, and eventually conquer the whole of Europe. Thanks for joining me for those weird stories. I hope you enjoyed them. You know the drill by now if you've been around for a while, but if you are new here, then please subscribe. Come and follow me on my social media, and if you like the show and want me to make more, then please consider becoming a Patreon supporter, so you can get your mitts on exclusive content, an extra episode per month, some goodies through the post, and depending on the tier you pick, have your name read out at the end of the episode, like our executive Patreon producers, Amy, Barry, Bethan, Kate, Mary, Ren, Sam, Sarah and Veronica. And huge thanks to all of my other patrons too. If a long-term commitment isn't your thing, but you just wanted to send a tip or a gift from my Amazon wishlist, then I would massively appreciate that too, and I'll leave all the links in the show notes on the podcast and the description on the YouTube video. There's now also a little thanks button on YouTube, which is just directly underneath the video, which acts like a little virtual tip jar and you can choose the amount, so if you're feeling generous then that's an option as well. An enormous thank you for even considering doing any of those things, because it means the world when I get any notifications like that or a surprise parcel, so big squishies if you're part of that gang, you're the absolute bestest. Thank you for joining me for this episode. I've been Nikki Druce, and I'll see you ghouls next time for October.